synchronization because we'll have problems.
Alright, we're off, mate.
Cool. Well, thanks everyone for coming. If you saw the title, which is Thriving with ADHD in Tech, that varies, the title varies, but the talk's normally about the same actually. It's designed to give an insight into ADHD if you don't have it, management strategies if you do have it or you don't have it, and things you probably didn't know were ADHD, and it can be quite surprising. Given our industry and given the general age, you probably didn't get diagnosed with ADHD as a kid because they just missed a ton, and they said that everybody was going to grow out of it, and then nobody did. So that's what where we are today, where it's actually quite a challenge to get an ADHD diagnosis. The query is, do you actually need an ADHD diagnosis? It depends what you're looking to get out of it. If you're looking for medication for trying to get some help, yes, you're going to need a diagnosis for that, and it's about 10 months now. So you go to a doctor, you say, I'd like to be assessed. They'll say they haven't got any resource. You say, can I exercise my right to choose, I think it's called, which basically means they'll refer you to a third party. It's a 6-month wait. They're all ex-British doctors. None of them live in the UK anymore, as far as I've been able to tell. They were registered in the UK, they've now gone elsewhere. About 6 months to get diagnosed, and it's a 1-hour phone call. It's really quick. They go through and say, just ask you some things about your past, ask you some things about how you would tackle certain scenarios, and they also ask for so before the 1 hour, they ask for a questionnaire to be filled in, which a close friend or relative is supposed to fill in part of it, because their perception can really help you. So if you are looking for a diagnosis and you are surrounded by people who don't really think ADHD is a thing, don't get them to fill the questionnaire in, because they're not going to help. I've heard that happen. So my journey, I'm 44 now. I got my diagnosis at 43, so not very long. It's about 7 months, 8 months ago. Can't remember exactly when, because that is a feature of ADHD. Anything before last week is just before. I really know. Could have been 5 years, could have been 6 months before. And I was talking to a friend of mine who had just got diagnosed, and she talked to me about what was the diagnostic factors. You know, not problems, what behaviour that the doctor went, yeah, they tick the box for ADHD, and we're going, well, I do that. Oh, I do this one. I do that. And another one. I do that. Like, yeah, I really should go get diagnosed, just to see if there's any help available, which I did, and I am now diagnosed and medicated, and it's brilliant. It's really hard to tell what are the benefits of medication, because if you've got an illness, the flu, for example, you know when you feel really bad, and you know when it's over. It's quite evident usually. Or if you've got, I don't know, a spot on your face, it's quite evident, it's there, and then it's not. ADHD is weird that, or for me at least, I talk in generalisations because everyone's different. For me, I don't necessarily have a night and day, oh, ADHD's been turned off. It doesn't work that way. For me, what I notice is things I'm able to do, which I didn't realise that anybody could do, or I didn't realise I couldn't do it. So a good example of that is I had an argument with my wife. The objective of an argument for me has always been end the argument. I didn't know why. I thought it was, I just don't want to argue, so I'll say whatever I need to say, which is hurtful, but as long as the argument ends, that's me winning, because the argument's done. And then we had an argument about a month ago, and I was able to, in the moment, hold the thought where I would normally have said whatever, something not appropriate and awful, which would have ended the argument and she would have been upset. And I was able to hold it in my brain and look at it and go, that's not necessary. It's, we're just having a disagreement. We don't need to do that. And that was what medication gave me, is the ability to hold that thought in my brain and look at it and go, yeah, it doesn't need to come straight out your mouth. You can hold that. It's not going to help. And for different people, different things. So that's the impulsivity side of things. Personally, for me, in women, anxiety comes very strongly with ADHD. Again, generalization. It's why boys in school were the naughty boys, the excitable boys. They display ADHD through energy. They're distracted and they distract other people, and that's quite evident. Women don't tend to do that. They tend to internalize it. So they're just as hyperactive, but it's internal, and it's usually quite negative self-speak. So sadly, ADHD comes along with depression for most people who don't get diagnosed, because when you don't fit in and you don't understand why you don't fit in, you blame yourself, and that's hard. And as horrible as anyone else can be to you, you can be more horrible. There's no challenge to yourself. Anyway, looked at this slide long enough. Moving forward, if my keyboard works. Cool. So it's about, and I put a tech. That's what my talk normally is, which I think is appropriate for the audience. But it is actually, like I just said, it's life. If you can get an understanding of ADHD, medicated or not, the understanding can really help you. Some of the ways of getting through some of the harder bits don't need medication. Medication is one thing. Strategies, knowing how your brain works, knowing that you're not, if you've got ADHD, that person is not reward driven. So if you're working towards a project, it's a 6-month-long project, and everyone's getting really excited because it's about to come to an end, and successfully, your typical ADHDer probably isn't sharing in that excitement, because it's just not what drives them. They like the fact they're going to get that done and move on to a new thing, because they're probably bored on a project after 6 months. The conclusion isn't very rewarding, but go to the party, which is always fun. So I'd say living with ADHD is a double-edged sword. Just if you feel comfortable sharing, does anyone here identify that they have it, whether you're diagnosed or not? Does anyone suspect they have, or feel that it's probably aligned to them? Yeah, especially in this industry, and especially amongst men this age, it's common. It's still regarded as a naughty boy, but we all grew up, so it didn't go anywhere. And I'd say living with ADHD is double-edged. On the one hand, how fast your brain can go is amazing, because the innovation, and you can do something called hyperfocus, where you're locked in and engaged, and it could be 8 hours, 10 hours, you forget to eat, drink, hopefully you don't forget the toilet. So yeah, it's brilliant. You're fast thinking and the ability to focus. But on the other hand, your ability to focus is not under your control. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't, and there's not really a lot you can do about it. One of the most frustrating things for someone who's in hyperfocus and is doing really well, or you're getting stuff done, is being distracted. So if you're in an office environment, if you're in control of an office environment, and you know that someone within your team has ADHD, try and make allowances for, they're clearly in it, leave them alone. Do they really need to go to that? I don't know, stand up or whatever it is. If you don't need to go to it, then don't disturb them, because it's going to take a while to get back to that, if they get back to it at all. And it's the same for yourself. If you know that you can zone in. So the terminology of hyperfocus, you can call it what you like. It's zoning in and being able to just really concentrate. If you know that you do that, you can make certain put blocks in your diary, put blocks in your calendar, or do an auto. Do not, don't respond. On Microsoft Windows, you can do focus mode where it stops Teams things popping into your view and going, oh, squirrel, and off you go down that path. And yeah, apologies, this will probably go all over the place, but that's the nature of my brain. But hopefully we'll try and keep it in a direction. So yeah, the downside, missed deadlines because time blindness is a thing. Genuinely don't see time. It might have been 5 minutes has passed, might have been an hour. Unless I'm looking at a clock, I don't know what time has passed. Sometimes it gets to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the kids are coming home and like, oh, they went to school 5 minutes ago. And literally they're back. So it's been, 6 hours, 7 hours? How you can help that is set yourself alarms. So I've got an alarm that goes off at 1 o'clock every afternoon. It says go for a walk. I ignore it 99% of the time, but sometimes I don't. So, sometimes it's useful. But if I didn't set the alarm, I would never go. So yeah, set yourself alarms and reminders. I've got one reminder which is very effective because it's me swearing at myself. So when it goes off, I was giving blood yesterday, and the alarm went off because it was coming up to 7 o'clock in the evening, which is like, you need to stop work now. It's ridiculous. You're supposed to stop an hour ago. So I swear at myself, but I forgot, and it was in my pocket, and it was in my right hand pocket, and I was giving blood with my right arm, like trying to pull my phone out, but it worked. I'd looked at the alarm. Didn't need it that day, but it does work. So find something that works for you. If you just nullify an alarm without thinking about it, maybe that's not the strategy. There's some people do penalty. If you miss an alarm, then there's a financial penalty to that. Put it into a savings pot, or give it to your partner, or give it to your kid, whatever. And if that drives you, great, do that. Trying to think of others. Financial, food, drink, time are typical drivers. Pick one that works for you. Right. Next slide. There are 30 slides. I don't go through them very fast. That's who I am, in the right order as well. So husband, father, son, brother, uncle. And I am disappearing. A passionate advocate for what it says there. So I'd like to raise people up. If I can help someone else to have a better time, great. That's the aim. My nan, as a kid, had a phrase on the wall which is, it's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice, and that's kind of it's a central thing for me. Blood, plasma, bone marrow. Obviously, I've only donated twice, so I'm quite late to it. But if you can, please do, especially the plasma and bone marrow. The bone marrow one is interesting. So everyone knows blood type. If you're O neg, you can donate and everybody can have it. If you're O positive, it's not quite so common, but still fairly common. Bone marrow is actually the same, but it's very cultural and racial. So if you need a blood donation, you need somebody of a similar genetic makeup to you to have donated. Whereas blood type is only a couple, bone marrow is very, very specific. So if you are able to, it's literally, I'd say it's a 2-minute thing, because it's probably 30 seconds to go on the web, DKMS, I think blood.co.uk, you can get it now, that's fairly new. 30 seconds to order your swab, it gets there, 30 seconds to swab your mouth, 30 seconds to go to postbox, and 30 seconds to pat yourself on the back, you've done something good. You're now capable of saving a life. So for 2 minutes, it's pretty good return. And mental health awareness. So I suffered with depression when I was younger. Quite common, let's say, in ADHD. I got 3 unaliving attempts. I'm not sure what the correct term is these days, but I'll go with that one. Glad I didn't succeed. I wouldn't have had my family if I had. But I'm passionate about talking about it, because the one, it's a very easy thing. If you think someone's struggling, ask them, are you thinking about doing something like bad? Because not one person in the history of the world has ever gone, that's a good idea. I wasn't, but it's a good idea. No one's ever said that, but they might say, actually, yeah, I'm struggling, and you can help them. So ask the question. It's scary, especially if they say yes, but virtually every time they say no, but you've asked, so you've cleared that. So yeah, mental health. Talk about it. It makes it easier. What it doesn't say on there, so I thought about putting, I'm a human being with ADHD. It's a part of me, it's not all of me. I'm not an ADHD person, I'm a person with ADHD. It's a feature or a facet. It can help, it can hinder, but it's just a part of life. So on 17 minutes on slide 4. So we're not racing. So we'll see how we go. Right. So the challenges of ADHD. Did you know? I should show the proper picture. There's several types. ADHD is the 4 digits that everyone knows, but there's different types. I think there's 7 different types. So there's inattentive and distractible and impulsive, hyperactive on the screen, and they are detectable by brain scans, the different types. So if you are a particular type, you will show these features on a magnetic imaging on a brain scan to increase blood flow to certain places or connections to certain places that aren't necessarily there normally. There is one called Ring of Fire. If you know someone who is unbelievably ADHD and really struggling, they're probably that type, and it's everything fires off at the same time, whereas most of the other 6 types, parts of the brain fire off. Ring of Fire, it's all going pretty much all the time. So it's worth knowing about. Is an interesting one. Has anyone here got ADHD and happy to share? No one's got hands up.
I'm not officially diagnosed, but I'm in the process of referral through right to choose.
Cool.
So I'm still high on the initial sheets, and various traits and conversations I'm having with people, there's similarities, but it's not been confirmed yet.
Cool. Good. And the people who identify that they think they might, so taking it a bit higher up, earlier on I asked who suspects they might be or something like that, or suspect they know somebody as well. Did they have hearing tests when they were a kid? Because they just didn't seem to listen to people. That's an interesting one. Really high correlation between hearing problems and kids who've got ADHD. And it's because, and it's really weird, it's not and the whole term ADHD is a weird one. Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. Well, hyperactivity is not always there, that's why some people call it ADD. But attention deficit, it's just a rubbish phrase, because the problem is you've actually got attention over ability. If you're sat in a room, in a pub, and there's someone having a conversation over there, and maybe it's a bit heated, or you fancy the girl or something, there's something got you looking over in the first place, your brain there's no difference between the person you're chatting to here and the person you're chatting to over there in terms of the attention your brain is giving it. So it comes across as you're not hearing them, but it's because you're listening to everybody. You're listening to all of the conversations all of the time. It's the inability to zone out the other ones which you shouldn't be listening to, which is why people tend to get selective hearing, is what they used to say as a kid. He hasn't got hearing problems, he's got selective hearing. It's ADHD.
That's fascinating, because I'm going through, I would say, waiting my day. Well, actually, I'm halfway through filling out the forms, because they make you fill out forms that you just put off all the time.
Irony.
But I've been told I'm deaf all my life.
Yeah. Do you think you are though? If you're in a quiet room, like in here, you're hearing me fine. But if we were in a loud room, I bet you couldn't.
No, that's true.
It's the ability to zone in and focus. There's I'll see if I can mention a few of them that they're uncommon. People don't think they're ADHD, and they are, or could be, not necessarily all the time. So ADHD, I'll read off my notes now for a sec. Presents a unique set of challenges in the workplace, productivity, relationships, job satisfaction. Relationships is an interesting one. I will cover that in a sec. But by understanding the challenges, either for yourself or for someone you love or care for, you can just have a nicer life. If you understand that your or their objective is not the same as everybody else's, expecting a neurotypical response when the person you're speaking to or yourself is not neurotypical, you're going to upset yourself or them. So understanding things can really help. What I make a very strong point, which is what I say about the passionate, it's crucial to recognise that the difficulties are not personal failings. They are aspects of a neurodevelopmental condition. Blaming yourself for being unable to, why couldn't I just focus, or why couldn't I just do, I knew I had to get here at 7, why couldn't I leave on time? I set alarms, so I got it. Otherwise I wouldn't, because I was working. Be kind to yourself. You can be your worst enemy. I do try and make it not super negative, so because it's not. We start with the challenges, but then we move on to the better side of it. I can't remember what that code was for. If anyone wants to scan it and have a look, I genuinely can't remember what it was for. I think it was might be for a poll or something like that. So what I said, difficulty with time management. Individuals with late diagnosed ADHD often struggle to stay organised, plan stuff, meet deadlines, and it's because it's something called time perception, where you don't see it passing. But there's also something called executive dysfunction, which is everyone says everyone's a bit ADHD. Everyone's a bit I get it. Some people get really offended by it. I don't. I get it. There are features that everyone's a little bit and does it a little bit. The one I focus on is what's it? Wait, I can't think of the word now on stage. Where you put something off and put it off and put it off. Begins with P. Procrastinate. Thank you. Everyone procrastinates. But if you look at the literal definition of procrastination, it's putting off something that you don't want to do. That's not what ADHD people do. That one actually annoys me a bit when they say that ADHDers are procrastinators. The problem is, I really want to do it. I really want to do it. I know I will suffer consequences if I don't do it. But it's just not happening. My brain it's just not going to happen. I will push it and push it and push it, either until I get a Hail Mary and hyperfocus and I can recover. The benefit of being super fast sometimes and hyperfocus sometimes is you can recover from quite a long time of not doing much work. And over the I need to plug in my laptop actually.
No, it's
No, it's just come up on here. It's in the bag down there. It's not an ADHD thing, I forgot to charge it. It's a really old laptop. I wanted to make sure I had a HDMI
your neurospicy, my preferred term, they don't always get it. So if you say you want 360 feedback, you'll get it, and then they won't understand why everyone's upset. Yeah, in that presentation you sucked. That's what you said. You said you wanted 360 feedback. But yeah, so there's that. There's one called RSD, which is rejection sensitive dysphoria, which is an interesting one. I liken it kind of, it's not really, but you've ever woken up in the morning after a heavy night out and you don't really remember exactly what happened, and you have that fear of, what did I say, who did I send something to, what, you know, you have a bit of fear, beer fear in the morning. RSD is kind of like that, but for anything. So I was in a WhatsApp conversation the other day, and we're just making silly, proper nerd, we're making silly jokes about Sequel Bits has been announced, is going to be in the Excel in London in June. So oh, I hope I get access, or oh my word, it's been announced, and silly Office 365 jokes. I responded, and this is how much detail I went into. It was like message. I responded 2 minutes after the last person. No one liked it, no one laughed, no one responded, and my brain went, they'll hate it. Like, that's pretty much probably not true. And this is the benefit of sharing with a partner or a friend, or knowing this kind of thing, that I go to my wife and go, I'm being silly, aren't I? It's, you know, I feel hurt because they haven't responded. But people, she's like, yeah, people have got jobs, they've got work. It's when you did that, actually it was all lunchtime, and then you responded just after lunchtime. My brain didn't see any of that. It just went, they hate you, which is, it's horrible to have. But what's brilliant since I've been diagnosed, and so you don't need a diagnosis, but since I now know, I'm able to look at it a little bit removed and be like, okay, I've learnt about this RSD thing, and that's why I do these talks, because if you have that similar horrible feeling, knowing that actually probably it's probably not the truth, knowing that that's a thing can make it a little bit easier. It does for me, so I hope it does for anybody else who has a similar thing. Right, difficulty with task initiation, getting started. It's the reward system of, it's, you're going to get something at the end of it. It doesn't drive me at all. It's, yeah, if it's not new or interesting, I'm not interested. If it's just, you know, fix that thing I've fixed 5 times already, but for a new client, I know that problem, I'll get to it. And it's how far can you push it? I sound like a really bad, and I'm awful to work with. I've told them all right. It can be a struggle. And the number of hobbies, I really want to get into using wideband radio. Kind of, I'm going to buy all the kit, and it arrives. Yeah, not interested. The dopamine, so they call it chasing dopamine. The dopamine was researching and learning so much about this topic in depth that I'm, semi expert at this thing. But the minute it lands, I've got a 3D printer that it's been sat in the cupboard since it arrived. I literally never even opened it. I was dead excited, never opened it. So they call it the ADHD tax, because you pay money for things that you just lose money. The other silly example is because you can't remember and things like that. You go to a shop and you go, I'm pretty sure I need soy sauce. And then you get home and you put it in the cupboard and there's 5 soy sauces already in the cupboard because you've thought that every single time you go shopping. That's also the ADHD tax. Luckily, soy doesn't really go off, so you're all good. Here we go. Impaired memory and concentration. Like I say, the memory thing. Mine's weird because I've got ADHD, but I also have something, aphantasia, I think it's called, which is the inability to visualize something in your brain. That only came out literally last decade, I think. It's not a thing that many people know about.
because you'll assume, and it's literally a good insight into the way people's brains work. You have a conversation of, oh, do you remember this? Okay, those words are fine, but how you remember, that's not contained within those words. And do you actually see a picture in your head, or a photo, or is it a video reel, or something else? For me, it's something else. So I'll do a quick one with you. I'll have to be careful with the words I use, because if I lead you, you don't get the right results. So I want you to think of a ball. Okay. That ball is on a table. Okay. I want you to push that ball off the table. So, anyone have a particular ball they were thinking of? Tennis ball, golf ball, basketball?
A red rubber ball.
Red, so colour. So colour and texture and all those other components. The table. What table? What kind of table was it?
I was lazy and it was literally the table.
It's common. It's fine. Yeah. We usually link. So if it's a pool ball, it tends to be a pool table. Rubber ball, I'm not sure what that'd be. Maybe ping pong table. Coffee table.
Yeah.
When you pushed it off, what happened?
It just went off, but you couldn't, because I'm thinking in a picture and focus on that bit, you can't see, because you didn't mention to say that,
Yeah.
but you push it off, so anything outside that
Ceased to exist at that point. Did it hit the floor and bounce for anybody? Yeah. After it bounced, did it roll under a chair or disappear away somewhere? Yeah. So the interesting thing is that all I said was a ball. Could have been a rugby ball. The table could have been round. And it's a really hard one to describe. For me, there's no picture, there's no colour, there's no ball. It's the concept of a ball. Are you on that same? Yeah. So you had lots. You were holding multiple in you. Yeah. So everyone's different. So the language is the same. Think of this, but every person has their own unique thing, way of seeing in their own internal mind. So part of the ADHD is where it says impaired memory. I don't really like that either. It's different memory. I don't remember my childhood at all, really. It's neither negative nor positive. I just don't really remember it. But if I sit at a table with someone I went to school with and they say something, in that moment I can remember it. The memories are there. It's like I'm missing the index, and I believe it's because of the aphantasia, because I don't see visually. When you're thinking of a memory, it tends to be a visual memory. But when I'm sat with someone and they're talking about it, I can access it all and go, oh yeah, this happened, and I remember this. It was 30 years ago, but I can remember it. On my own, no chance. That memory's just not there. So yeah, it says impaired memory concentration. I was because I can also remember silly things. Like I remember my granddad's phone number and his postcode from 35 years ago. I can't remember my wife's phone number now, but I remember that. So yeah, it's definitely different. Right. Oh, hang on. Let's go back. Did not work. No. I want to show my whiz-bang PowerPoint skills. Come on. No, whatever.
If only it was Power BI.
Eh?
If only it was Power BI.
Yeah, well, then we'd have all sorts of different issues. Alright, there we go. So it did. Because this laptop's ancient. try this and hopefully it goes all. That didn't work. Didn't set it up. That might be what the alternate version was.
Oh, yeah.
I've got it so it spins in and looks really cool. It's pointless, but it makes me laugh. Right, read these notes. Strategies. I mean, I tend to go over the strategies as I'm talking about it. Yeah. So I'm going to skip through these. Minimize distractions, close tabs. So in terms of the strategy, there is a browser, if you can install it, if your workplace will let you, called ARC, ARC, and it operates a little bit differently. That you have all your tabs are on the left, which takes a bit of getting used to, but you have above the line and below the line. If it's above the line, then when you turn your PC off or close the browser and you reopen it, they'll come back. If it's below the line, they're gone. So when you close your browser, they're gone. So my normal, how many people know? This is I don't think this is diagnostic. It'd be quite funny. I've got two things I think we should do diagnostic. One I might not mention till I'm not recorded, but it would be effective. On an Android, certainly, if you go over 99 tabs, it just gives you a smiley face. How many people know that? Yeah, probably the same people who said you had ADHD earlier. It's one of them. It's just keep opening them because I'll get back to it. I'll do it later. Never do. So Arc is quite a good browser for that. Muting notifications, declutter your workspace. This isn't my. I can't show you because I'm on presentation mode. This isn't mine, and I hate it. The desktop has got icons. It's got maybe 10 icons, but it annoys me because every time I see the desktop, I'm like, oh, what was that file? I'm distracted. I'll go down another path. So I like to have nothing on my desktop at all. Website blockers. I saw someone. So that should be a good challenge for coding. It was a Chrome add-in that they made with AI, and when they access something like Facebook or Reddit or a list of sites that they nominated, as you went into it, it did pop up on screen, grayed everything out so you couldn't see anything behind, and just in your face, you sure you want to be doing this? You know, maybe do something else. I've seen people do ones where it locks for a certain, you can access the site for a maximum of 60 minutes a day or something like that, so you don't doom scroll and disappear for hours and hours and hours. So yeah, either write your own or see if there's one online that you like. Productivity tools. Here's a funny one. Again, usually women, but not always. Buying notebooks, because you're going to get organised, and the notebook's going to help you. But you're never going to open that notebook, or you might not use it. You might write a couple of pages, but it's certainly not going to get you organised. But you got the dopamine from ordering the notebook. Best intentions, but it usually doesn't work. It can do, but it usually doesn't. So I prefer tech things, because I never write anything down for a start. Or I write it down and then I'm hunting for an hour where I wrote it. A stack of things I've written down, I've no idea where it is. It's a shame Gaz isn't here because he's got a remarkable ink. That looks amazing. I think it's the best of all. You can write it down but also have it digital. So it's good. Yeah, productivity tools. Teams. If your organisation uses Teams, it depends on how your organisation runs, but if you can get permission to turn it off outside of times where you don't need it to be on, do it, because the amount of times it will send you down a path. Because a nice feature of ADHD that no one ever talks about is it's a willingness to please or desire to be helpful. It's quite common in ADHD to your own damage. So you've got something to do, somebody wants you to help doing something that'll only take you 5 minutes. Unfortunately it doesn't, it actually takes you 2 or 3 hours because what they said was the problem isn't the problem, but you want to help them. So that could be turning teams off helps that not to happen somewhat. Time tracking. So if you're a consultant, or if you put your time to different projects, and then you get to either you're supposed to do it at the end of the day, how many hours did I bill to this client today, etc., etc., or are we gone? Yep. So there's add-ins or tools you can download that actually just track why you were on this site with this login for this amount of time retrospectively. Because if you get to the end of the week, you can't remember who to bill what, and you end up underbilling. So that's another ADHD tax, because you go, well, I'm not entirely confident I did spend that time, so I'm not going to bill them, and you end up underbilling. So yeah, track your time. I've got down to try mind mapping tools. I've not had. I put it down because it does work for some people, but for me, not so much. What really works, this is really weird, and again, it's how people think. If you tell me I've got 10 minutes to go, that's enough to prepare dinner, have a shower, do something. That's a lot of time, 10 minutes. If you tell me I've got 600 seconds till we go out, that's not a lot of time. So it's that perception of so that's one I use with my wife all the time. She goes, we're going out in 10 minutes, I'm not going to get dressed or whatever it is I need to do. We're going out in 600 seconds. It's a big difference. So that's an easy one. It's free and just convert it. And if you've got kids, you can let them exercise their brain doing the calculation. See if we come back. I think it might be the connection here.
I think it's me, split box.
Implement routine and structure, which is ironic because routine is boring and structure is boring. So I'll break that down actually, which is literally to break things down. So if you've got a massive project that's going to take you 6 months or a week. A week's a long time, so I'm not going to do any work on that till Wednesday, Thursday, Friday probably, because other things need my attention. Break it down into smaller tasks. Or if you've got people who report to you, break it down to by Monday we need to get this done, by Tuesday we need to get this done. You have to exercise, speak to your person you're working with. If that works for them, great. Some people it annoys that you're micromanaging, but actually I prefer this needs to be done by this date, rather than this 5 days away, 10 days away, something away. Breaking it down is much nicer, and it actually tends to work really well on projects because it's essentially agile. If you know agile methodology, it's essentially that, but even further. So if you're breaking this 5-day task down to 5 individual days, half the time I get to day 3 and I've either worked faster than expected, so Thursday, Friday I can do what I want with no mental processes going, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing this. I've done it. There's no work till next week or whatever. That could be quite nice. Or you just get to do something more interesting, more fun. Time blocking is I've tried it, it did work. So I don't know if you've heard of time blocking, or the phrase is fairly self-explanatory, but it's literally saying for the next 3 hours, this is what I'm doing, or between the hours of 2 and 4, I do this kind of task. Doing that, so you have a routine that it's not the same task every day, but I'm going to do that type of task. That could be really useful. Regular checking. So if you can't break the project down because it's all that one person, either you or your project's been given to you. It's all one person, and you can't really break it down because it takes a few days to get to where you need to get to. Fine, but try and have regular check-in points. And again, it's basically the agile versus waterfall, that you don't want to get to the end of the project and you've gone completely off tangent and not delivered what was asked for. but it's the same kind of thing where you just check in. It keeps it interesting as well, because sat at a desk or wherever you might be working for weeks on end without speaking to people, it's lonely. A lot of the working from home stuff is just real lonely. So having regular check-ins can help counter that a little bit. Here we go. Are we on? You fiddling?
Sorry, I forgot that you'd have to then redo it.
Anyone got any questions or any points they want me to talk about?
You talked about the fasting.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about this one-on-one before.
Yeah.
But like, that is something that I think I pride myself on, and it's like one of the superpowers I bring into the projects that I work on. People go, I've got this, and I go, well, it could be this, or this, but probably this because of this, and I'm like, oh wow.
Yeah.
And it always worried me that if I went and got a diagnosis and they went, yeah, I'll take these pills, and you go, oh, I can see clearly, that would disappear. Now, I've regulated it to some degree using low carbohydrate diet. The way that I know that happens, like, it feels like a mental fog lifted. You don't know it's there when you're not.
Yeah. When it's not there.
When it's not there, you realise it's not there. And I don't. I've always worried that like medication would affect that. Have you seen that in your day-to-day ability that is waned in any way?
No. But that was yes, but it was a journey. So when I first got medicated, they gave me let's check, get this working. Ritalin, I think, because probably it's the cheapest one and it's the first one they try for everybody. So that's actually a good point. If you get diagnosed and you get Ritalin, it's perfectly acceptable to get into it and be like, nah, it's not for me. I couldn't say why, and I can't remember why I didn't like it, but I didn't. But so I'm on something called lisdexamfetamine now, which is speed. It's literally speed. So when I said about the diagnostics earlier, because you have to go through this long process of getting diagnosed, and we're massively behind on diagnosis, and it's going to take years for everyone to catch up. I think just give people speed, because
I read something on the similar thing that if you give a neurotypical person cocaine, they go, I feel great. You give it to someone with ADHD and they go, no, that didn't do anything, because you're already up there.
Yeah. So the way my friend explained it, which I like, is the old school Ritalin and some of the other the older ones. If you think about two parts of your brain, so it's obviously it's not literal or anything like that, but you're two parts of your brain, and in a neurotypical I haven't got the speed to do that, so in a neurotypical we're doing this, and they're in sync with each other, and left and right, it's not really art and thinking, but whatever, they're in sync. An ADHD person is kind of like, this one's going faster and that one's normal speed. So what they used to do, the old style drugs, is to bring it all down, kind of dope you, and then hope that this slows down to get to that level, or basically you're still unlevel but you're slower. That's the old one, and that's what I felt like Ritalin kind of did to me. What speed does for neurospaces is where so neurotypical goes from this and it goes like that, goes faster, great. It doesn't last very long, and they don't like the feeling because it's essentially you've given them ADHD for a bit. And yes, if you want to know what it feels like to have ADHD, if you haven't, take speed. But if you have got ADHD or some other neurodevelopment, but it works for a few different things, it speeds up everything, but what it kind of does is this side catches up because you've lifted it, and then it's able to go, oh, hang on, and it gets into synchronization, and it doesn't slow down, but at least you're in synchronization now. So in terms of, I think about that imbalance is where my brain can go, I'm going to think about this, I'm going to think about this, I'm going to think about this. When it gets in sync, because it's been sped up, I have more control over my thought processes of, I'll look at that in a minute. That's a really good one. A positive feature of medication. If you're having a conversation and you've thought of something you want to say it, but you know that if you don't say it now, that's gone. You might forget it. It might be gone. Neurotypical, they can do that. They can have this thought, put it there, finish the conversation, and go, right, that's what I wanted to talk about. Neurospicy, a lot of people don't have that ability. The medication gives me that ability. It's amazing. In the middle of a conversation, I can go, okay, I'm gonna mention that in a minute. Put it to one side, and it's still there when I come back.
I think the fears that I've got from it is because of what I've seen from Reddit do to people.
Yeah.
And it is like giving people a lobotomy. They're just there.
Yeah.
They don't really exist. They just they don't talk.
Yeah, and I don't think it was that bad for me, but I didn't like it. I thought, is it better? Arguably, yes. It was better to some extent, but I thought it's got to be something better than this. This still isn't right, and that's why I pushed to change the meds. There's a couple. You can get lisdexamphetamine, which is really easy to remember because my neighbour's called Liz and my son's called Dex. Amphetamine. You get dexamphetamine, which is I think it's faster acting, but doesn't stay in your body as long. So I think you take that a couple of times a day. So I take mine once in the morning. That's it, done. High protein is critical, I would say. It's never mentioned by doctors. But if you're on, well, for me, if you're on lisdexamphetamine, so the online forums and chats are really useful. They're like, have a high protein breakfast, because otherwise you get incriminating myself and other people. Imagine if you've had ecstasy and I've heard you get a really sore jaw. Lisdexamphetamine does the same thing. I get to 10, 11 o'clock at night and it just feels like just been chewing my own, grinding my own teeth. High protein breakfast stops it. Don't know why, just does. Doesn't change the effect of the medication, but it stops the jaw, which is important because it hurts. Let me try and get this back on.
We're on for good now.
Yeah, I haven't even flicked, is it? Which is good. Try this. Yeah, my touchpad's knackered. Come on. You have a great laptop you just don't want to get rid of because it works, but it's getting old now. Let me skip to that one. Skip to that one. Skip to that one. There we go. Cool. Right. Communicate needs proactively. Share with people that you struggle in a certain situation. If you know that you need a earlier deadline, or you need to, a really weird one is, I need to know in more detail than other people sometimes, why am I doing this? Because if I don't know why, then I can't be bothered. If it looks like a nonsense task, why am I doing that? Having a conversation of what is that going to deliver for them. For one, I like it anyway because then I can have the conversation and be like, well, actually, you've asked for this, but if your aims and objectives are that, then I've got a better way if you want it. Now, when I was younger in my career, I didn't do the if you want it bit. I would be given a task and go, I've got a better way of doing this, and then deliver it, and it's awesome, but it's not what I asked for. And that's really tough because, like, well, I've done something really cool, but you don't like it because it's not what you asked for. So as you get older and wiser, it's just ask the question. Tell them that you've got a better way. If they want it, great. If they don't, just do it the way they asked for. But yeah, so be open. I would say. I don't know if I've got it on here, but I want to share it because it's not on here, I don't think. There's some cool tactics which you can use. One's body doubling, which is really weird. That if I am asked to do the dishes, and it works, my son is almost certainly ADHD, and we're not seeking a diagnosis because we're not going to medicate him. He's all right. He's getting through, and he's got parents who understand, so I don't think he needs a diagnosis. Maybe that'll change as he gets older, but knowing certain strategies, I can see when he's overwhelmed, and it's just don't push through. It's not, if you've got ADHD overwhelm or autism overwhelm, don't push through. That's not the right way to do it. Just back off, give people space. But what I was going to say is body doubling. So if I'm asked to do dishes, it's my turn to do dishes. Getting that task initiation thing again, I can't be bothered. It's boring doing dishes, or whatever it might be. My wife, because we've researched it and understand some of this stuff, she will come into the kitchen with me and just be there. That's it. Just be physically in the room when I do the first dish, and then she can walk away, and I'll just carry on and do the rest. It's getting that first one done. It's really hard, but having somebody there, just physically there, not doing the task, just being there, can help you get over that. And it works for my son as well. We've got to tidy his room. We'd go in and I'd put the first t-shirt in the drawer or whatever. As long as you get that first bit started, he can carry on. So that's body doubling, which is pretty cool. We did the time, change it from 10 minutes to 600. I think some of the other strategies. Oh, here's an interesting one. And it sounds like a negative, but it's not. When ADHD can present as, or can seem like people make stuff up because they are trying to please, or they also might not remember the truth. So it may be that, and I preface quite a lot of some things I say. I will preface it sometimes when I'm not certain with, I can't remember if I'm remembering the telling of this or if I'm remembering that I actually did it. So I don't know whether I actually did it, but I know I've told the story that I did. But I can say that openly, and like it may or may not be my story, and maybe a story I heard and I've just consumed it and now I think I did it, but I didn't. It's not lying, it's my brain. I can't tell the difference between did I do it or did someone else do it. But the point is, it's a really cool story, so share it. And ADHD storytelling is a different thing. It's not start, middle, end. It's start the 15,000 things you were thinking about at the time, and maybe you get to the end if you remember it, or sometimes you get distracted halfway through and go somewhere else. So yeah, knowing that your child, partner, yourself can do that, it can be quite nice to just tell people that if you can prove, or if you know that memory isn't mine, I'm perfectly okay for you to tell me that. I just can't remember. And it just helps to be upfront with that, because otherwise people think, oh well, he's making it up. That's not the same as lying. I just don't remember. And I was going to say, masking is an interesting one. So this is strategies for overcoming ADHD challenges, and it wasn't even on this side of challenges because I've gone off the topic because that's what I do. Masking is really interesting. It's you present a face. If you put a mask on where you appear happy when you're not happy, that's what people usually think of as masking. Neurospicy people, it can be really weird to understand that the James that you guys know tonight might not be, and probably isn't the same James that my wife knows, and isn't the same wife my dad knows, and it's not the same wife my teachers knew or my work colleagues knew. I used to work in Milton Keynes, and I swear my personality down there was about 50% the same as my personality up here. I had a different personality because that workplace, it was just, I fit in better by being that person. So you can come across as being disingenuous or fake, but actually most ADHDs are so good at it that you don't know they're putting on a show, and they're not putting on a show. They're not lying. They're not faking. They identify the need for this characteristic in the group, and they'll take it. Like in Milton, because I moved from Milton Keynes to Carlisle when I was younger, and in Milton Keynes I was really into Nirvana, Pantera, Sepultura, heavy metal bands, and I moved up to Carlisle and they were into Offspring, so I got into Offspring. And in terms of what music do you like, I like everything. What do you like? Because that's what I like, and I mean that genuinely. It's not that I will pretend to like it. I will like it because you like it. So yeah, masking is an interesting one. I think it'd make good actors probably. I'm pretty sure James McAvoy's got ADHD. If you look at some of his mannerisms, and that's an interesting thing about ADHD in modern day and age. It's lost to some extent, it's lost its negative perception, which is good. That it can be. I have certain challenges, and because we know about it, we can put these things in place to help. What's interesting is autism doesn't seem to be there yet. I've been told that I'm probably ADHD, ADHD, but I'm not seeking the diagnosis for autism. I'm not ashamed of it, but there's no medication for it. And as far as I'm aware, there's no different coping strategies compared to ADHD. But yeah, I would have a much easier time standing I've got ADHD than saying I've got autism, and I don't know why. Maybe it's an internal bias or something, I don't know. That's why we talk about it. If we should share. Anyway, it's a good bit. Has everyone got a drink? Anyone want a drink? Or shall we pause? 8:10? We'll just carry on. Yeah. Cool. Right. Exceptional problem-solving abilities. We mentioned it earlier. Thinking outside the box. Having an ADHD in your team can be really amazing. One of the things that really frustrated me, I used to work in the finance sector. Obviously round here, so it's the usual candidates, and it's the it's the way we've always done it. I hate that phrase. But why? Why are we doing that? It's the way it's always been done. Now, when you're junior, it's hard because you've got to tick the box and do the way it's done. But I'm hoping as ADHD is becoming more, or neurodiversity is becoming more of a known thing. I hope they drop that because it's annoying. Yeah, so we can approach problems from a unique perspective. You can see it from a, you said earlier about you can run through, you can go, well, there's this. When I do that, it's spatial. If I know something really well, my eyes are literally moving, and as I'm thinking, I'm not looking at anything, but
it's become more apparent now doing a lot more remote work that because I always have my camera on, that people will stop and go, "What are you thinking?" Because I'm going like this, because I'm thinking about all those different things and sort of like pictures, and then I go, "Oh, well, there's these scenarios that exist, and that's why we can or can't do." So that's what it says.
Yeah. That's an interesting. I don't know why it's a thing, but apparently it's a thing where people do look up and around, and it's
sort of laughs in the face of looking up and looking down and being lying and telling the truth, because you're physically thinking, partitioning off all those thoughts that come back and
they're in physical space somehow. But I couldn't tell you where anything was.
Minority Report without it being there.
Yeah, it's cool. I was going to say something. There's a common phrase for an ADHD. I was going to say something, but I forgot. That's a trigger phrase that you're like, no, you might have, or you might just be forgetful. If I think about it, I'll come back. Pattern recognition can be really, really heightened in neurodiversity, where you can just see it, and other people can't, and it's really hard to communicate where. like what? It's there. It's a pattern. Like, yeah, no, it's not. I don't see it. And how do you communicate what you're seeing? And then you have to get, prove what you've seen and things like that. But the fact you can spot that problem is cool. Spot that pattern. Sorry, is cool. So again, if you're forming a team, if you've got someone who's really good at spotting patterns but really bad at explaining the pattern they've spotted, then try and find someone that pairs well with that, which is they're really good at explaining difficult concepts. So you get that person to spot. It's like a spotter and a sniper. So if you can pair up with someone, that's really useful. Really good at brainstorming sessions, but you have to have the culture that really no idea is a bad idea, because you can throw up some weird solutions and answers and suggestions, but you have to have the confidence that actually it's okay to do that. As soon as someone feels like they're being laughed at, they're not going to raise it again, or it might take them a while. So yeah, if you say you want an open and frank and brainstorming, don't laugh at people when they come up with crazy stuff, because sometimes it's the crazy stuff that works. Cool. And excel at troubleshooting complex issues. That's as you were discussing, holding the whole idea and issue, and I know this system connects to this system and this does this, but also I know the dynamics of that system is that person and that person doesn't like that person. So yeah, the optimal solution might be to do this, but actually don't, because John and Jane, they are not going to work well together. So we'll go a different route. But having all of that go on at the same time is a big strength. So yeah, embracing it. The creativity, because I said about problem solving, but the creativity is you can put I'm trying to think of a good analogy, but it's not going to come. Let's say put 2 and 2 together and make 6, but 6 is actually the better answer. Whereas a lot of people can just do, well, that's 2 and that's 2, so therefore the answer's 4. So that's that creativity. You're not necessarily constrained by what is supposed to be the answer. There are other answers. There's usually many answers to a problem. So ADHD people excel in creative fields. Now, weirdly, I think tech is a really creative field when you get to a certain position. If you're in the wrong position in tech, it's not creative and it's boring, and you're not going to get the most out of the skill set of the people around you. But I liken my work sometimes. So I've done database stuff for years. I do Power BI now. I do a mixture of both. I think of it as like sometimes I'm a detective. If you're trying to find a problem, I'm digging in and I get to understand the data. I land at a client and I can understand data. I can become the SME pretty quick, better than the people that have been working there for 3 years. And I could just get it all in and work on it. And it's creativity. There we go. My yammering on. The hyperfocus is really cool when you've got it. Unfortunately, it's not under your control. Accepting that is a big part of getting friendly with yourself. Sometimes you're awesome, sometimes you're not. On balance, you probably are awesome. So yeah, become subject matter experts quickly, almost like I remembered my slides. Adaptability and resilience. When I first gave this talk, it was an interesting one, that I was in a car at Alton Park, not on the track. I was in a car park because it was my son's birthday and we'd gone to just watch racing for a day. And the people on the call couldn't believe, like, so you're doing this call in the car with racing cars like going 20 metres, going past you at 100 mile an hour, and you're not thrown at all. No, it's no different to me to be sat in there or sat at home in an office or be on a ship or be in a plane. It doesn't really make a difference. So that adaptability is a big strength, I would say. I've got resilience on there That's an interesting one. It's resilient, but again, it requires the friendly dynamics of the people around you. If you feel criticised, that's not the kind of resilience I'm talking about. The resilience I'm talking about is you try this, it didn't work, cool, try something else. Try this, didn't work, cool, try something else. Don't get disheartened and discouraged very quickly. I don't mind trying as many things as it takes to get it right. So it's that kind of resilience, I'd say, that ADHD can be really good at. So again, the adaptability is the pivot. So you're on a project and it's gone sideways. I don't know, server's down or it's DNS, it's always DNS. Something's gone wrong. It's weird where an ADHD might not be able to get on topic and might not be able to get started, but in an emergency situation, they will be there and they'll be at running speed almost immediately on the problem, because we're not thinking about maybe. It's just, there's a problem, I'm going to fix it. There's a fire, I'm going to put it out. Which is really weird, because it means you can jump into action when needed, but I don't get to decide when needed. That's the hard bit. And again, it's the unpredictability for someone working with you. Like, hang on, I've seen you absolutely smash it out of the park, and then you've done nothing for a week. It's hard to understand. So, create an inclusive environment. If you speak to people, tell them when you've recognised your own strengths and you've learnt your own coping tactics, like being body doubled, then share it. It can really just, the ability to not hide. Like if you're like, I've had meetings where the camera on, it's not a camera on day. Just isn't. Don't know why. I just don't want to put a camera on. The ability to say that, like, it's not personal. I'm not unwell. I'm not undressed. Or maybe, I don't know. But it's just not a camera on day. So having that inclusive environment really helps that. An interesting one I saw a lady talk about. It doesn't bother me so much, but the lighting in a meeting room can really impact people. So talk about neurodiversity as general rather than ADHD. People can have an issue with too bright, too dark, too hot, too cold, too noisy, the ceiling's too high. I hate, if I go shopping, there's certain shops like Cheshire Oaks, if I get to the back of some of those units, I hate it. I don't know why. It's just maybe that it's not high enough, or I don't know, I just don't like it. I have to get to the front. And my wife understands that now, because what used to happen is I'm bored, or don't want to be in the shop anymore, I'm going to leave. But now I'm like, actually, I understand my brain is saying I don't like this, so I'm going to take myself out of the situation. That was a diversion. Right. Where are we? I'm not on Q&A yet. Yeah, I can be. Yeah.
Got a question online, back to medication. So have you had any unpleasant side effects with meds like Lisdex Speed aside E-Draw?
Not really. I have dropped 18 kilos since I started taking it, which is good. I wouldn't say it was negative. Actually, it's probably unrelated. I don't think it is, because the doctors keep trying to say it is. I'm being investigated for some heart issues at the moment, because my heart, like, I'm on stage, so it's a bit different, but I'm 110 right now. So I'm doing a marathon pretty much all the time, which is one of the reasons why I'm losing weight. They like to say it's the meds, because you're taking speed, that's speeds you up. But I've been taking the meds for 9 months, and heart stuff's only started 3 months ago. So I don't think it's related. They do. I was stung by wasps in July and had a blood pressure of 60/30, which is what I think did it. So to answer the question, no, but maybe. Who knows? Lack of sleep might be a side effect, but if you've got ADHD, that's a thing anyway, so don't know. Good and bad. Bad because it's just not healthy. I quite regularly do 30-hour stints. I sit at my desk at 8 o'clock on Monday and I don't leave my desk till 7, 8 o'clock on Tuesday. Just work all the way through. But that's the balance of sometimes I don't get anything done and sometimes I get loads done. So I just have to sit there and go through it. I did that before I was medicated though, so I don't think it's related to the medication. I would, if you are getting medication, and I'm trying to speak to my GP about this now. So I'm on 40 milligram. They titrate you up, so you get your diagnosis, and then you have to wait again to speak to a prescribing person. And you start on 10 milligram, then you go to 15, then 20, and they measure your blood pressure. So you have to measure your own blood pressure, heart rate, all that stuff, just to make sure you're tolerating it, because Ritalin, I think more than Lisdex, can send your blood pressure through the roof. So you have to be really careful with that one. So I'm on 40, which is not massively high. It's high enough for me. But it's a single plastic capsule. And sometimes I don't want 40. Sometimes I think, do you know what? So there must be some negative, because there is a point where I'm going, I don't want to take 40 because I will be on it all day. I don't want to be, or I don't need to be. Maybe I need a break, and I'd like to be able to take 20. As it is, I take nothing. So I usually take nothing on a Saturday, Sunday. I don't know why. Just I think so I can relax, which would suggest that I can't relax when I'm taking it. So maybe that's a negative. Yeah, no, I don't. Nothing that I would recognise as negative.
Does it extend your hyperfocus then? Because like my hyperfocus is terrible anyway. Which was talked to this like before. We went to like 2-3 every night this week because I had an idea. I spent the last 2 weeks doing it after work and all weekend and all night. I don't want to extend it any more than that. Like 3 or 4 hours of sleep at night is my usual, but you know, if I go down to 2, I think I might be pushing it.
I don't think it extends it. I think it gives you more control over it, if anything. Yeah, I think you can't initiate it, but I don't think it takes control away. And maybe that's why I didn't like Ritalin. I can't remember. This one I prefer. It gives me extra abilities. It doesn't give me extra energy. That's what I was mentioning earlier about the way they should just diagnose people, give people speed, because if you, like you say, if you are neurodiverse, you will have a brilliant day in terms of you'll feel in control. You'll when I first took, I don't know if this is criminal or not, but whatever. I took my friend's medication to try it. It was a thing like, well, she's medicating, working for her, let's try it, let's take it. And I had emails that I needed to respond to, and they were in my inbox. They weren't seriously important, they weren't work-based, they were personal-based. And I'd get to them eventually. The day I took her medication, I sat there and went through every email and just knocked them out of the park. And emails came in and I went, oh, well, I'm going to answer it, so done. And then that's like, oh, okay, I need to pursue a diagnosis because of medication. If I can remove some of the shitty bits of ADHD, then do it. So for me it's been great. I've not heard of anyone who had bad, unless you're American, because it's really expensive, and they seem to have a different system where you can get generic, where if you buy paracetamol here, it could be Nurofen, it could be whatever, it's going to be the same effectiveness. It's the same thing. For some reason, the Americans struggle with if they don't get the branded, so it's called Elvance. If they don't get the branded medication, they say it's not as effective, and it's not just one or two of it. It's a wide swathe of people say that it's not as effective. I don't know why that is.
That'd be doing with advertising TV.
Say again?
A lot of their pharmaceuticals are advertised on TV.
Right.
People do that.
Oh, so that they think it's better. Like a, yeah, could be. But it's reading that made me. I learnt about the protein in the morning. So yeah.
Did it occur to you doom scrolling?
Yeah.
If I could slip it to the wife as well. Get that for free.
That wasn't picked up on the mic, was it?
It's alright, she's just watch.
So what have we got? You got taking of illegal drugs and drugging your wife. Wrong form.
But this is not safe for kids anyway.
Yeah.
Does it stop doom scrolling? Yeah, I think so. I sit and watch YouTube probably more than I used to. So it's gone from my phone to I can sit and watch whatever conspiracy theories taking my interest today. You'd be surprised the rabbit holes you can go down. Yeah, I think it probably has reduced.
Because I do a lot of it because I sit there and think, I can do anything today or tomorrow or the next day. Because I know I've got a week's worth of work to do, but I'll flick the switch on because the deadline's there because that's the switch for it.
Yeah.
And I got a week's worth of work done on Friday in the morning before lunch and then I have Friday afternoon off.
Yeah.
Because I'm not spacing it all out, just panic do it.
Yeah.
So if
But you can. So. Yeah, so it doesn't take that away, that capacity or capability. It might reduce the need to have the hyperfocus. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not a silver bullet, or it's not a take it and magic happens. I've just over time I've spotted that like it's such a strange thing. That argument that I was able to have internal brain space and think, and I speak to my wife and she's like, I want rewarding for not being a dick. So that's hard for my partner to understand. Like, why do I want rewarding for that? You should just not do that. Like, I understand that, but for me this is amazing. So you have this ability to, whilst arguing, have a separate thought and not act on it. I didn't know that was a thing. So it's not I take the medication and everything changes. Over time I've recognised things and gone, oh, that's cool. I never used to be able to do that. And that's a crazy example. Can't think of any other examples. The best, and this is why I've been maybe or ADHD. I'm really bad at recognising my own anything about myself. So I ask for external validation. So I've got two sons. The other son he's amazing at it. He's like, you're having a really good day, Dad. Or yes, you are. You seem much happier, or you seem calmer, I would say, actually. And I recognise that one. So where I had a little bit of a what's the word? Trigger temper, short fuse. That I'd say is a lot better. I'm not anymore, and I think it's because I was so overwhelmed pretty much all the time in every situation that it didn't take much to push me to an explosion. So it's difficult. Like you say when the fog's not there, you can tell, but you can't tell when it is there. It's similar. I couldn't tell that I was stressed or overwhelmed or whatever, but I can now look at it and go, there's a lot more chill, which is take speed, get chill. That's not the way it's supposed to work. Yeah, so that's it.
Another online question for you.
Yeah.
We've got loads actually, but we'll trip them bit by bit. Is your partner neurospicy? And how did your conditions affect your relationship with your partner and kids?
I think she is. She's not diagnosed. That's a common thing as well, by the way. When you get diagnosed, everything becomes about ADHD because you're just recognising things. You're learning so much more, and it can become really annoying to people around you. Like everything's about ADHD now. That's waning off a little bit. It's been 6-7 months. The irony of the hyperfocus and the interest and the learning. Well, now I've got something to learn about, so it's dying off a little bit. Is she neurospicy? Yeah, almost certainly. Is a one which is. I'm saying it because it's typically the way it is, not that it has to be that way. So just to preface that, women with ADHD tend to have the issue where, and it could be male actually, to take it out of it. You do the washing, do your clothes washing, and then you wash it again because you forgot about it and you left it in the washing machine for 3 days, and then you wash it again because you forgot about that one as well. She does that to quite a large extent. Like I say, I'm prefacing she doesn't have to do. It's just the way we organise stuff in our house that she does do dishes. I do the cooking. And what was the second part of the question?
How has it affected your relationship with your partner and kids?
Same partner, same kids. Can't change your kids. So not that much. I'd say life's got better. I would say that ability to not blow everything up in an argument was brilliant. I keep mentioning it because it was brilliant. It's beneficial for the relationship. Learning about body doubling was amazing because it's not that I'm being lazy and sat on the couch and I'm supposed to do dishes and anything like that. I just need you to not literally but almost hold my hand whilst I do the first one. And that's actually a really easy thing to do. And we struggled with that with, well, why should I have to stand in the kitchen with you to get it done? You should just get better. You should just you should just do it. You should be normal. And that's really hard because but I'm not going to be. That's not going to change. Is it easy enough to come and stand on me for 5 seconds? Yeah, do it then. If it's not hard, and we are getting a better situation, let's do it. But as I say, that's why I think she's neurospicy as well. You tend to think everybody is, because when you learn about things, you're like, okay, I see that. So yeah, so I'd say things have improved. ADHD prior to being diagnosed, knowing and medication and all that, I would say is yes, it almost certainly had a bad effect because it's impulsivity. There's rejection sensitive dysphoria. So we have in the first couple of years of relationship, we have an argument. It's over. Our entire relationship is over because I don't know. You don't like carbonara, something stupid. The fear of being rejected, so I'll reject you first. Is that an ADHD feature? Don't know. Probably played a part. So understanding some of the things allows you not to do it. Any more?
I'll ask another online one. This guy called Noel, who's loving your talk. Thank you very much for your previous talk. It says, how did you progress or achieve in formal education, or did you self-teach?
I was really good at GCSEs. There's the irony of the I say impaired memory, it's altered memory. I did well in GCSEs where it was not coursework based. If it was coursework based, forget about it. I'm not doing work at home, I do work at school. So homework was never a good thing. I did really well in GCSEs because I could just study the night before, consume and retain for about 12 hours everything, dump it down on the exam, do really well. Don't ask me the following day some of the questions because it's gone. It's short term. Got to A levels where I had to do more self-guided study, I guess, or it was more coursework based, and I didn't do well at all. and it's not strictly related to education, but it's kind of related to the first year of a degree. If you think people drink, so alcohol, smoking, and so weed and normal smoking, and some harder drugs is quite common in ADHDers, undiagnosed ADHDers, because they're looking for something to calm their mind. It's the irony, you take things to make you go faster, or weed, which brings you slower. But yeah, there's quite a big crossover of drug. Begin with, then add alcohol. They tend to be the ones which are the life and soul of the party at the beginning, but the ones that are in a crumpled mess in the corner at the end. I don't know why I looked in the it's a high number. PTSD is the first treatment, because you've gone through life not getting it, not understanding why your reaction isn't the same as everyone else's reaction, whether that's a good thing, bad thing, or anything else, but you just don't fit in. And ADHD children, I don't know if it's diagnosed or undiagnosed, but it's just ADHD children. By the time they hit 12, I think the number was they've had 10 to 20,000 more negative interactions than a non-ADHDer. Because it's the constant, sit still, don't do that. Oh, well, I know it's going to be you're the one who did it because you're the one who's the loudest or whatever. 10,000 by the time you're 10 to 12. It's massive. So then people who get to 30, 40 for diagnosis, well, that's carried on, really. You've probably not done yourself any favours with some of your impulsivity or alcohol, reduced disinhibition. So yeah, if you think about getting a diagnosis, get it.
That's where the fear comes from. Of, you got 5 minutes. If anybody says that to me, it's like,
oh yeah.
What have I done now?
That's RSD. So that's something. So that's a really. I'm glad you raised that. If you're a manager, don't do it. Don't do the.
I don't. 5 minutes. I won't do it.
Yeah, 5 minutes because the ADHD or other neurodiversities, they jump to what have I done wrong in the last 10 years that could see me fired or arrested, and no, they literally just want you to look at something.
So if that was 3 years differently, would it be better? So if it was something like, can I roll something by you? That'd be better.
Yeah.
I would rather you just came to me straight away and started talking to me.
Why are we doing it later? We're talking now.
Yeah.
What's
So
it?
it's time for you to organise something to get my stuff out.
But for me, that would be better. Can I run something by you? That's a far.
More neutral.
Yeah, it's far nicer than have you got 5 minutes? That's terrifying.
There's one guy on my team, he messages me, rather than say everything he wants to say, he says, hi, and then like, slightly more formal than hey, and like,
It's more formal than
and then he says like 5 minutes to like the rest of his message, and then I'm running through, what's he going to say?
Yeah.
It's not just that, I think it's the distraction. If you're focused and you're going up and then you're like, right, I've got to wait.
Yeah, sit there and watch the message.
Might not be the message is going to be.
really common frustration of ADHD is, which you've just got to deal with, unfortunately, is when you're in a conversation, they've said 10 words, and you already know the next 3 minutes that they're going to spout at you, and if you're bad at controlling your face, that could be an issue, because it's like, I know what you're going to say, okay, right, we'll get there in a minute. Yeah, I don't know any answers to that. I think you've just got to do it. Get a better face. So here's an issue. If you know anyone, someone's going to ream off things I can think now. A typical ADHD, I do it all the time, is I'll meet someone and within 10 minutes they know everything about my life. They know where I grew up, they know what I like, what I don't like, they know everything. And it's really nice to meet someone who, and it doesn't matter either way because it's not why I'm doing it, but that's my way of being. When you find someone else who's the same, and you could be instant best friends, and my wife finds it really funny. I tend to do it on holiday. I make the best of friends, but then the minute the holiday's over, that's done. That was a friendship over there, done. Walk away. But it's that ability to just like, here is everything about me. That can be uncomfortable for some people, but I think it's a skill when you're trying to speak to new people or meet new people. But you can give away a bit too much sometimes. Hence talking drugs and stuff. Anything else?
We should probably wrap it up
Cut it
anyway.
at some point, yeah.
But are you sticking around afterwards?
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Oh, actually, yeah, so I should, I haven't got it on here. If anyone has any queries, questions, comments, whatever, I tend to have LinkedIn open all the time. I don't do Facebook, or I doom scroll Twitter, especially with all the stuff going on in America. And Project Bluebeam, that's a good one. That's a rabbit hole for you if you're not already there.
Just feeding all the ADHD in the room.
Yeah, find me on LinkedIn. I think it's just James Reeves. Or email me james.reeves@dataquality.ltd. And I'm happy to have a chat about anything.
Or you can always contact me if you can't find me.
Yep. Cool.
Nice one. Okay, right. Let me grab on with the feed. We'll stop the stream. Actually, before we do stop the stream, Noel says, "Thank you very much for your honest and courageous talk about something so personal. It's been super interesting, helpful, and inspiring." And I think we can all agree with that. Thank you very much, James.
Thank you.